but you don't ever leave. You never leave. Holes in his hands for the holes in my heart. Without his blood shed for me, I'd be stuck in the dark. I'm just being who I'm made.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Because Faith and Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Chad, and it has been a long weekend. Another weekend of baseball. As you can see, I'm in the trailer again up here in Idaho Falls. And as just a quick reminder, this podcast was born from me acknowledging a low, I think one of the lowest points in my life last year. Gosh, it's almost been a year ago next month that all this kind of took place. But I had hit a low point, and I started understanding all these friends and relationships and people I hear on the news or whatever who've taken their own lives, and I all of a sudden caught myself realizing or understanding how they get to that point, and it freaked me out. And I just instantly realized, like, I got to do something, and I turned to God. That was my saving grace. And I think God speaks to us in the ways that we understand. Except for me, that was 75 hard, and keep me super disciplined. I quit drinking July 27th of last year and have not regretted it once. Talked a lot about that. So aside from personal choices and everything else, like, it's just poison for your body, quite literally. And when you are been diagnosed with a major depressive disorder, I don't think taking a depressive or downer top of that is helpful in any way, shape, or form. So over the last year, I had that question asked to me, like, what have you learned or noticed since you've stopped doing that? And I can say honestly that I understand the concept of, like, intrinsic happiness and joy and where it should come from, not trying to seek it from somewhere else. I've been able to think a lot more clearly and, like, think through the things that I need to work on, and I've been able to acknowledge where there's setbacks and start working through them. So it's been awesome. So fast forward, and out of that, this podcast was born because I'm not very good at talking about any of the stuff I even just talked about, especially with other people. But I felt like I need to say it out loud, because a lot of times when you're saying those things in your head, or anything in your head, like when I've been in arguments or anything else and I say something out loud, it does not sometimes come out the way that it sounds in my head. So I thought, if I'm going to actually learn and understand some of these lessons, like, I need to say it out loud so I can hear it and either go back to the drawing board with some things, or have a better understanding of it, and on top of that, learn how to say these things out loud. I said last week I had my first conversation with somebody. I've actually had a couple now where I've been able to, like, speak this real to people. So if I've gotten anything out of this whole process, it's like that I've learned how to say the things that I need to say out loud. And I highly encourage that if you're one of those people who doesn't do that it is, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like I talk about 1 Peter 5:7, and, like, this casting my anxieties, like, it's just like these burdens lifted when you say it out loud to, like, those people that care for you and love you. So anyway, so this week I just want to talk real quick. I had the opportunity beginning of last week to attend a private viewing of a very short documentary on just quite an extraordinary guy, a guy that I actually don't know at all. He's a local, or was a local high school football coach at Ogden High in Utah, and his name's Eric Thompson, and he kind of built this reputation of just being a coach that, I mean, stood out. Aside from taking a team that hadn't won and they start winning, but interviewing some of his athletes, it was that they all felt like he actually cared for them and loved them, and I mean, it was awesome. They prayed before games as a team, and he was a coach that didn't yell. But anyway, point is that a few years ago he was diagnosed with ALS. That's actually when I first learned about him, because his circles cross some of my circles. So I started hearing about him. Still didn't know much about him, but just knew that he was diagnosed with it, and it progressed quick. I mean, it's only been 3.5 years, and seeing him was I don't even know. I mean, he's obviously in a wheelchair, has no muscle to move almost anything. His head still moves, he can still speak, but if you ever talk to anybody with ALS or listen to him talk, I mean, their voice even starts changing as those muscles start deteriorating. But anyway, so somebody in his family had reached out and asked to do this documentary, and they did it, and I'm certain it'll hit Netflix or something here shortly. I mean, it's just an extraordinary story of faith and love and God. And I'm just sitting there listening to it and watching. I mean, in a room full of, gosh, there had to have been, I don't know, 600 or so people in this auditorium watching this thing, and I was just amazed. And throughout the whole thing, he's just kind of talking about what's important, and it's relationships that we have. And so that got me to think, I think I've talked about this before too, but like, we live in this age of idolatry, and I mean, there's a lot of verses on this whole concept. I mean, all the way back to Exodus 20:3-5. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me. It's really dark. There's a lot of dark things in the Old Testament, but it's so relatable to today. Isaiah 44:9-10. All who fashion idols are nothing, and the things they delight in do not profit. Their witnesses neither see nor know, that they may be put to shame. Who fashions a god, lowercase, or casts an idol that is profitable for nothing. And then 1 Corinthians, you go to the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 10:14. Therefore, my beloved, flee from idolatry. So, you have this image of, when you first think about that, of like the golden calf, or when the Israelites kind of like lost it after Moses freed them, and so you think that is a false idol, but I mean, it's everything today. Like, right, like we are so into everything. I mean, in today's world, children and teenagers often idolize celebrities and social media influencers, admiring their seemingly perfect lives and material possessions. And it's significantly impacted mental health. I mean, research indicate that many teens are heavily influenced by social media, with 19% using YouTube almost constantly, and similar figures for platforms like TikTok and Snapchat. And a report by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services highlights that the rise of social media usage correlates with an increase in mental health issues among youth. For example, nearly a quarter of teens reported that social media makes them feel worse about their own lives. Moreover, the pressure of maintaining a perfect online presence can be overwhelming, particularly for girls who are more likely to feel excluded and experience social media induced stress compared to boys. I mean, this is the future of idolatry, and we miss everything. So as I'm listening to this guy who probably doesn't have a lot of time left, I mean, and he's sitting there just reminding us that none of that matters. None of the stuff that we think we want, the stuff that we idolize, that's just dragging down our spirits and our faith, and we're putting our faith in the wrong place and in social media and wanting the perfect life. I mean, I recall the first time, I won't name any names, but I recall the first time, using social media for a way to track those you went to school with, right? And seeing somebody and thinking, man, their family's doing really, really well. Like, I'm super happy for them. Only to find out from one of the siblings that, like, it was all fake. It wasn't even real. And, like, I mean, this is a minor situation. They're just, like, showing this perfect family and their kids and all the things they're doing, and everybody's so happy and lovey-dovey. But it's like, you just forget that, like, that's like these moments caught in time. And there's so many more moments in between those, and it's not all peaches and cream, right? And you just kind of forget it. But when you're younger, like, this just becomes like your reality, and they're telling you that if you do this and if you do that and if you wear what I wear, and we just start worshiping, as we see adult men do it with these sports teams. Like, the thing, and I've talked about this before too, Bedros Keuilian talks about this a lot. He talks about it for different reasons, but I mean, all these men that know so many details about other men, and it's just weird, right? Like, we're essentially like worshiping. We put these men and women on these pedestals, and it's for nothing. Because as eye-opening as that movie was, it reminds you that the only thing that really matters is, like, the relationships that we have, because you can't take any of that crap with you. Now, keep in mind, I am not saying that I'm like anti-money or not earning it or not trying to achieve as much as you can achieve. I'm just saying what you put your faith in, or what your focus is on, like how you're prioritizing your mindset, right? That's all I'm saying. And there's science and evidence backs up that when we sit and worship these people that we see, or these things that they have, that it contributes to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts among adolescents, for sure. And certain it's happening for adults. I'm an adult, and I've had several friends and acquaintances take their own lives. Now, was it for these reasons? Probably not, but like, there's still so much that's like just being missed, because some of these people had the relationship, they had their kids, and like, it just wasn't enough. They thought they needed something else, or that, I don't know what it was. But I mean, if you ever read Larry Miller's book Driven, he achieved so much financial success and had so much, and the thing that he regrets most is not spending or not watching his children grow up, because you can't get that back. And when it's in the end, Like the only thing that you can really have or do, you can't even use those material possessions or anything, but you could have the memories, and he didn't have those. I mean, he even tried to do it to make up for it with his grandkids, but like, you can't make up for it. Like once it's gone, it's gone. So it was just like this eye-opening story on where we put our faith. And remember, 1 Corinthians 10:14, for my dear friends, flee from idolatry. Remember, Paul wrote these letters to the Corinthians and was teaching them about Christianity and like where to refocus, because their focus was, partying and fitness and these competitions, and so it was a lot. Like there was a lot of things that he needed to teach them on where to redirect their focus. And he's teaching them about the Israelites who, experienced their lust after evil things and, were overthrown in the wilderness because of their idolatry and disobedience. So he's just giving them this reminder of where to have your faith and where to have your focus. Doesn't mean that you don't try to succeed and do other things. It's just a reminder of like what's important. Anyway, maybe this made sense, maybe it didn't. It was good for me, like as I just sat and watched it, and the things that I think about, what I've thought about is success. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop trying or not trying to achieve as much as I can achieve, because I think there's a lot of good that can be done with financial success. And there's a lot that you can give back. There's more than you can give back when you have it than when you don't. I mean, yes, you can always give your time, but in this day and age, like a lot of that still takes money to be able to do. So I'm not saying don't earn it. Earn as much as you can, for sure. But just be careful what you have on that pedestal. There's only one thing that is worthy of being on that pedestal, and it's not the car. It's not some stupid celebrity. That's probably the wrong thing to say, but I mean, you know what I mean. Like these people that you don't even know their lives. Or it's not that one family on Instagram that you think is perfect, because they're not perfect. Behind the scenes, I guarantee you it's not perfect. So just remember that you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this disease, ALS, is like, I don't understand it. I think it's crazy. We don't understand it yet. But I do find it interesting that some of these stories that you hear of people that end up with it, like it's interesting that they don't lose their faith. If anything, they gain it. They just try to maximize the time they have. I'd hope that if I ever end up in, I don't know, a situation like that, that I could do half of what some of these men and women have done. So, summary, just remember what's important. Like it's the relationships. Don't miss them. You don't get it back. The time with your kids, spending time in the trailer and camping and sitting in a baseball park. I don't know if it was just that it was that good of a tournament this weekend with the kids, or if it was because I had this whole thought process on where my attention and focus is, but this was one of the funnest baseball tournaments that I've ever been at. And maybe it was a mixture of both, but I was just trying to be super present and in the moment and watch these kids just like do what they love, and the spending the time with the people that were there, and the community, and making fires and s'mores with friends and just talking. Like those are the things that you can, that matter. I can't talk to my car. I can't take it with me, right? So anyway, maybe this meant something to you, maybe it didn't. If you know Coach Eric Thompson, look up his story. Just Google him, Ogden High School coach Eric Thompson, ALS, something like that. It'll come up. But just an extraordinary guy. A lot to learn from, and he's kept his faith in God throughout this whole thing. So it's really quite something. Just reminds you of what's really important and how quick everything can just be taken away and changed. So think about those relationships and situations and where your mental health is, and how that's affecting your physical, because low mental health is going to affect your physical health. And our body is this temple, right? So the Holy Spirit lives, and I think we owe it to Him to do our best to take care of it. And if we're not taking care of up here, it makes it a lot harder to take care of all this. So anyway, hope this was helpful. If you thought it was, if you got anything out of it, I ask that you share, subscribe, like it. If we could just help one person make a different choice for the better, then it was all worth it. Closing in prayer. God, I'm just grateful for the opportunity that I had to attend that showing this week, and Lord, I'm just grateful for like the word and your word, and like the lessons that there are in it, and the community that I have, and the friends and the relationships that we have. God, I just ask that you bless them, and just be a reminder that that's what's important, and that you're the only one that should be on that pedestal, God. I ask that you watch over the Thompson family as they just endure this time that I can't even imagine, Lord. The example of faith that Eric sets, even in the darkest of times. Lord, I say these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Have a good week. And
for me, I be stuck in the dark. I'm just being who I'm made. I ain't playing no part. If you searching for fulfillment, he ain't far. What's temporary to eternal? Eternal. What's temporary to eternal?